3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, on this episode of AFTERBUZZ TV Spotlight On, we're getting up close and personal with actress Paula Garces. Let's do it.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yes. Welcome everybody to AFTERBUZZ TV Spotlight On, getting played in by Childish Gambino, a song called Redbone. This is the show where we get up close and personal with all the people both in front and behind the camera that bring you all the great entertainment you like to watch, whether it be at home on your TV, maybe in a theater, or on the big screen, or on a mobile streaming device. I'm your host, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. Now, my guest today is an actress and producer originally from Colombia. She's been burning up the TV and the silver screen. You've seen her in comedies like Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, daytime soap operas, All My Children, Guiding Light, dramas like The Shield, Sopranos. And if that's not enough, folks, she's actually making her own comic book right now with a character called Aluna. Oh, so many cool things happening. It's actually translated from the page, from an idea in her head, all the way to the video game realm as well. So we're going to be talking about all of that. But you can next see her this fall on TNT when season 6 of Major Crimes returns, and then in 2018 on Netflix for the new original sitcom right there on the block. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Paula Garces.
Woohoo! Wow! What an intro!
Oh my gosh!
That was a mouthful!
I barely held it together. I barely did. Yes!
You did it! You're awesome! What's up, Superman?
All right,
How
thank
you.
you. Doing well. Thank you for coming in and sharing some time with us.
Oh, are you kidding me? Thank you for having the Latina superhero.
Oh,
yeah.
yes. Well, like any good superhero, we need to find out your origin story.
Okay.
Yes. So you originally from Colombia.
Well, my parents are. My
Okay.
parents are both Colombian, but I was born in New York City and grew up in Spanish Harlem.
And as I understand it, your father was a fisherman and your mom was a school teacher. Is that correct?
That is so not correct.
Is that not so correct? Okay.
No, and I just leave it on Wikipedia because I think it's the funniest, coolest story ever.
You're like,
No, my father, I mean, he could be a fisherman, but he's a hippie, actually.
he could be. He could be many things. Whatever he likes to be.
He's a hippie living in the mountains in Colombia. I mean, that's a true story, actually. Yeah.
So he's moved since back from New York back to Colombia?
He never made it to New York. So
gotcha.
I was consummated in Colombia. Can I say the word consummated?
You can, yeah, absolutely.
In Colombia, and then my mother was brought here pregnant to New York.
Okay.
Because my grandmother was like, you have to have this baby in America. And so hence I was born in New York City.
Wow. I've not really spent any time in Harlem or Spanish Harlem.
Okay.
What's it like growing up there?
It's like East LA. It's like
Okay.
the hood here in LA. It's all hoods are kind of the same. Very good people with some not very good economic means, but they make it work. And a lot of creativity comes from it.
Now, speaking of creativity, was that something that was acting always in your blood? Or was that something that kind of came to you a little bit later?
No, so I grew up in New York City in the early 80s when it was kind of like the movie New Jack City. Like
Okay.
for reals. And my mom was a single mom of 2 girls. I have a younger sister that's 3 years younger than I am. And she was like, you are not hanging out in the hood at all. You are going to audition for scholarships for anything in the arts. What do you want to do? Do you want to paint? Do you want to dance? Do you want to act? And I was like, I don't know what I'm good at. And so I got some scholarship to some dance schools and some acting courses here and there. And then by chance, I met an agent in New York that took like 10 Polaroids the first time I met her. She threw me out into the auditioning circuit, and one of my first gigs was a public service announcement with Martin Scorsese, who I had no idea who he was at the time. I thought I was having my first acting couch experience when I met this man, because he was like a short, creepy little man asking me about sex and things, and hence the public service announcement. It was about the effects of alcohol in teenagers and how you can have not safe sex and maybe contract the virus AIDS, which we now know as AIDS.
Yes.
So this was in the 90s, early 90s. So when I got home, I was like, Mom, I think I experienced acting couch. This creepy little director man was asking me about my first sexual experiences, and do I practice safe sex, and do I drink, do I do drugs? And she was like, what? And she called my agent, and my agent was like, okay, A, it wasn't acting couch. B, it was Martin Scorsese. You need to school your daughter on who Martin Scorsese is. And C, she got the job.
Oh.
So she has her SAG card. Yay!
Yes!
That's how I got my SAG card.
So now, when did it take you to finally get like a greater appreciation for Martin Scorsese? Do you immediately, after you hear that, do you like, well, maybe I should go watch a few of his
My
movies?
mom immediately just told me about his films. I think took me to a screening of I don't remember the first Martin Scorsese movie. It could have been one with Michael Madsen, which I'm forgetting the title right now. Excuse me, but yeah, I mean, immediately I got educated on who Martin Scorsese was, and then I started to just audition for different New York shows like Law and Order. I did like a couple of episodes of New York Undercover, and then it just grew from there. And then I got pregnant at 18.
Wow.
Yes.
So
everything
what
that
happened? Martin told you. You're like, nah, what do you know, Martin? Forget it.
So apparently he casted the real thing. And my mom's poor hard work about, like, you know, her plan about me being an artist and not really hanging out in the hood didn't quite work out. But I always had a dream about doing something in Hollywood, either being an actor or producing or writing or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I can remember times when I was like 18, pregnant, like on a subway in New York City, and my friends would ask me, so like, what's the plan, like, when you have the baby? And I'm like, I'm gonna be an actress in Hollywood. And people would look at me like, yeah, like that, like I was retarded.
No, I mean, that is amazing to have that sort of optimism, which is like, yes, I know that's what I want, and that's what I'm gonna get, because I feel many people in that situation would feel a lot of like the walls closing in on them.
Oh, well, you know, it helps to be young and stupid.
True.
And when you're young, you think everything is possible and you're always optimistic. And I think that's why a lot of artists don't want to grow up, or they don't. Like, I went to a Pharrell Williams Netflix premiere yesterday for a cartoon that he's doing, an animation that he's doing for kids. And he very briefly spoke, but the one thing that he said was like, artists, we don't grow up. We never grow up. So when they told me I should come in and meet these people that are doing this animation, it was like right up my alley, because I'm still a big kid, you know. And so I connected with that. But yeah, I mean, back then I just thought everything was possible, even though I was poor, even though I was on welfare, even though I was pregnant and in the hood, and I just thought I could do it. And by the grace of God and family and friends and a lot of people who really believed in me, a year and a half later, I was doing a major motion picture starring opposite Michelle Pfeiffer called Dangerous Minds.
Oh, just that. It's a tiny film. Let me put it out to folks.
I turned it down because I didn't have a babysitter, and I actually had the producer of the film, a little-known producer of the film, call me and say, like, why don't you want to do my film? And I'm like, because I don't have a sitter. And then he was like, I think you're going to be able to afford a babysitter. And I was like, Ma, he's saying that I can afford a babysitter. Do you want to get paid to babysit the baby and go to LA for me to do this film? Okay, I'll do it, Jerry Bruckheimer.
I wish I knew who that was. That is a very obscure man lost into the shadows of Hollywood history.
So a big shout out to him, because he literally is responsible for like a lot of the things that came after that.
Now, many people that I've talked to before, when they're talking about growing up and their parents and they're kind of pursuing a dream in Hollywood or just in front of the camera at all, many times parents are kind of reluctant. They're kind of worried about their children. They want them to get more of a stable sort of career. Your mom...
Listen, my mom was like, she already got pregnant at 18. Like, what else could go wrong? You know, that's it. My nightmare that I was thinking about happened. So let's make the best of it. And she was very smart. She knew from a very early age that I was a creative person and that I was not built for a 9-to-5. That I was gonna do something either in front or behind of the camera, but it was going to be something creative. And might as well support that and support that dream. And she did. And so I'm very glad that she did, because without her, I really wouldn't be able to do any of the things that I do.
I think that's the hardest thing for a parent, as a parent, is to be able to kind of divorce yourself from what you think is the right thing to then be able to let your child kind of explore who they are and not kind of force what you think they should be on them.
Yeah, kudos to my mama, right?
Yeah.
Like, she was just so down to roll with the punches and then just make the best of it. So, and she's not a momager at all by any means or necessaries. The only thing that she's really done for my career, other than support it and give me, love and always tell me that I'm awesome, right? Because
that's right.
If your parents don't tell you you're awesome, oh my gosh. But it's really just make one introduction to an agent a long time ago who she didn't really know what the business was, but she was like, hey, she said she can put you in some commercials. Go ahead, baby. Take some pictures, see what happens.
I think that's a good lesson, because there are many times many people, like their parents, if they come to like, oh, I know this person, or I casually ran into this person at the supermarket or at this party. Maybe sometimes listen to your parents. If they may have a good lead for you. You don't even know it.
Absolutely. And you never know where you could, you made a good point. You never know where you can meet someone anywhere. I mean, like just randomly, like you said, at a supermarket or a library or whatever. You just never know. And it's really taught me that you really can't judge people by their cover, obviously. And to just be kind and just generous to anybody. Doesn't matter, who you think they are or where they're going. You never know when you're really going to need someone's support or love or juice, right? A connection.
Yeah. So when you come out and do Dangerous Minds, what's it like doing your first film? You're like, oh my gosh, from going to the subway, sitting there with my friends asking me, what are you going to do? To now you're on set with Michelle Pfeiffer.
At that time, I was like, this is it. I am a star. Oh, I've made it. Me and Michelle, we're going to be best friends. I mean, I thought it was it, and it wasn't. I did that film and I did a couple of other little things, and then 2 years later I was back on welfare. So I'm actually glad that you asked me that and that you came to that point. I'm not sure if you knew that about me, but after I did that film, it wasn't just like an uphill, oh, everything's amazing, all bells ringing and she's super famous and making a lot of money right now. No, it wasn't like that for me at all. I had a very hard fall after that, went back on welfare, went back to the hood, had to face everybody that was telling me like, oh, that's not gonna happen. But for some reason, I didn't take it like that. I just took it as, I don't know, as part of the process, as part of my artistic growing up, so to speak. And I was like, oh, I have to do more living. I have to learn more about how it's hard and how to really make it in the world in order to portray the roles that I'm gonna be portraying soon. And so that's kind of what I would tell myself, that I'm just doing research for my next job.
I've mentioned the pressures, though, are because it's easy if it's somebody kind of went out on their own and they were kind of fighting that kind of career pitfall. But you're also raising a child, too, as well.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like that's got to be weighing on you as well, because it's not like if I was just by myself, I could suffer through it, but I also have to look out for somebody that I'm raising too.
Again, I have to give my family, big shout out, because through all the ups and downs, they were really there for me. So when I had, again, the fall after Dangerous Minds, I had to go audition again. I had to go pound the pavement again. And without my mom babysitting or taking me in or, feeding me and giving me subway money, none of these auditions and none of the other jobs that came after would have came about. I also had to learn, really quickly that I was responsible for somebody else, so I had to have, regular jobs, right? I had 3 jobs during the weekends, so I basically didn't sleep my weekends so that I can audition Monday through Fridays. And then I would hustle a little bit with, some part-time jobs during the week, but I could only do things where people would be cool me leaving for an audition or two. So I would work at a Living Well Lady, which was a health club for women.
Living Well Lady. Oh,
I would cater waiter. I would do all the things that that you hear the typical struggling actor here in LA do. I was doing it back in New York back then.
Now, I was reading, and you've been saying that you got hooked on auditioning.
Yes.
So what is it that you love about auditioning?
Well, I used to have terrible stage fright. And so the way I got over it was just to do it over and over and over again. And auditioning is basically being on stage. So after a while, I became hooked on that high of actually facing my fear, going in, giving an awesome audition. And you pretty much know when you're giving an awesome audition is when they put their phones down or they start looking at you instead of looking at their pages or jotting like some note going like, no way, Jose, are we casting this woman? And when you do give a kick-ass audition, it's just like instantly gratifying. And then the biggest high comes, either that night or a day later or 2 days later, when your agents or managers call you and say that you got the gig. It's like amazing. Like, oh, they're gonna pay me for what I just did. And it's like, it's all of that. So I got hooked on that. And I got hooked on the idea that if I go and audition for a part, I really must deserve it because I'm actually going in and fighting and reading up against other people. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into casting or whatever, but whenever you do get casted after an audition, a lot of things have to go right for you in order for you to get the good job. So it's a high. I got hooked on that high.
Was it just the actual experience of itself, and that it didn't matter if you got the role or not? You just loved the process of auditioning, that you could just get hooked on that without.
Yeah, you can get hooked on just the process of auditioning, on giving a good audition, especially if it's for something that you might not feel you're not quite right for, or maybe your reps are like, I'm not sure you're right for this, but go in anyway. When they tell me that, it's like, oh, I really want to prove everybody wrong, because I have felt like I'm such an underdog my whole life. Even in real life, I felt like it's just been against all odds for me to do anything, really. So in the auditioning process, if you have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, you can get hooked on just that, on just giving a good audition or getting a good note. Like, she didn't get the part, but boy, was she awesome in the room, and they loved her, and they're thinking of her for something else. Like, even getting that is, like, really cool for an actor, I think, in my opinion.
So as you're pursuing these auditions, after you kind of felt like there was like that little setback, what's the next opportunity that kind of makes you feel like, all right, I'm back in the game. I'm heading back in the right direction?
Soap opera called Guiding Light. Longest running show on television. I think it started on radio and then it was on TV for like 65 years or something. They were casting the first Latino family on soap opera in mainstream television. And I'm like, damn, it's taken 65 years.
Wow. We
have novelas for like ever. I mean, novelas is the Spanish soap opera. We are experts.
That's
at
right.
Soap. So I went in there, against a million other, Latino. I don't know. It wasn't a million, but it was a lot of other actresses, and I got the role, and I was like, wow. It was like my acting, but it was 9 to 5 kinda. It was every day. It was a steady paycheck. It was everything that I needed. It was literally everything that I needed. It was like a 3-year contract. You get to act every day. You're making history because it's the first Latino family on a soap opera. So that was a big push for me. A big push.
What was it like? Because certainly I'm a huge fan of General Hospital. And I watched a little bit of All My Children as well, but General Hospital's a jam there.
I did All My Children online.
Yes, I did say yes. So Thorsten K, you got to hang out with him.
That's right.
But just like the tremendous amount of dialogue that you've got, I give it up for soap opera actors because they have to memorize a lot of material in a short amount of time.
That was so Guiding Light was one of my schools. I say that it's one of my because I didn't go to like a acting school, but a Guiding Light was definitely one of my acting schools, and I had a heart attack every day. I think for the first 2 years. years on that show. Yeah, the first 2 years on on a daily basis, I'm like, today is the day I get fired. Today is the day I get fired, and that's how I worked. It was high pressure back then, and on a lot of levels, for a lot of reasons. But I learned so much. If you know, not to say that the writing is bad or whatever, but they do take liberties of what's real and not real, and if you can make any of that work, then you are listening to your partner. You're really learning on what it's about to act and to be in front of the camera and to do any entertainment for an audience on a daily basis. So I liked doing a soap opera. It was challenging for me at the time.
Now, you said that you're basically giving yourself a heart attack almost every day and feeling that fear. Is that something that because I know there's some people that they'd like to kind of perceive that they're like lower than they are because it motivates them to work harder. Is that kind of a situation where you felt like I need to feel like this so I work harder, or it's like you genuinely
No. I felt like I was gonna be fired on a daily basis. It was the most insecure I've ever been in my career, but it also had to do with the fact that I was I think I was like 26, 27 at the time, and again, still a green actor. I had just come out of not having a job for a long time, and I mean, it literally was the job that got me like out of unemployment and welfare checks and part-time gigs to where I could say, oh no, I'm making a living I'm an actress. I'm a professional actress. I'm making a living out of it. So guiding light was very important to me on many levels. So maybe it could have been pressure that I was putting on myself, but there was also pressure from producers and writers. And guiding light was old school. It was we were directed. We were written for. It was they really had a standard for that show that was. Like none other that I had ever been on. So, but again, it was a school, and I really appreciate that gig. It really did a lot for me.
So you go from Guiding Light to something like with All My Children after it already left ABC and was working online with Prospect Park, going that route. Certainly a different kind of structure and financial model going that way. They couldn't quite do everything they were able to achieve on ABC. Sure. What was it like to go from Guiding Light, where old school, where you're getting directed, you're getting written to something where it's All My Children in this iteration of online?
So All My Children, you take actors take different gigs for different reasons at one point or another in their life and in their career. All My Children came at a point in my life where I really appreciated the gig. I was pregnant. So I learned that I was pregnant. I had just done Devious Maids, which was a smash hit, and but I wasn't offered like their second season or anything like that. So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I find out I'm pregnant, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to take me out of the game for at least a year and a half. I'm not one of those actresses that bounces back from a pregnancy like Jessica Alba, who has like abs a month later after her twins or something. And I'm not making fun of her. I think she's amazing. She's wonderful. I wish I could do that. But I knew in myself that I wasn't going to be able to do that. And so I was like, oh, man. And then my agents are like, hey, they're thinking of rebooting All My Children, and it's going to be online, and they don't care if you're pregnant. And I'm like, well, how's that going to work? I'm an FBI agent. Oh, no, they'll just shoot you from your chest on. I'm like, all right, I'll go with it. I don't care. So it was, being pregnant was one of the major reasons why I took it. But then when I took it, I started working with amazing actors like Thornton. I mean, it's like, and the writing on that show was actually really, really good, especially for our storyline. And I was excited to be like this FBI agent and undercover, and yeah, I was like 4 months pregnant, but I had to play a stripper. And we made it work. I didn't look that bad, and it was fun, and it was in Connecticut, and I was living in the East Coast. So everything about it was amazing. And then I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be online. No one's going to watch it, right? And then, of course, Oprah is like a major fan of All My Children. And of course she was, and we all are. And she put it on her network, on OWN. And I was like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
The first show where Oprah's going to actually know who the hell I am. I'm playing a pregnant FBI agent. What a disaster. But again, I appreciated it very much.
Now, you had a chance to work with Susan Lucci on Devious Maids.
Yes.
I was always a fan of David Canary. I loved him as an actor. And he did little bits and pieces up for the online version.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Did you get a chance to just kind of watch him ever act or anything?
I did, because I was pregnant. I didn't like come in and out of the studio the way some other actors would. I would just kind of hang out and relax, and sometimes I really couldn't stay still or really take a nap or anything like that. So I would go to the studios where they were shooting, and I would just watch everyone else. So I got to see a lot of people doing their thing on the soap. And he was one of them, so it was great.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So when do you decide, like, all right, East Coast is great, but I'd like to try to maybe hang out and see what the West Coast has to offer?
So I worked my whole pregnancy up until I was about 8.5 months pregnant. I got very, very lucky. I had done Warehouse 13 about a year and a half before I got pregnant. And then on their last season, which coincided with my pregnancy, the producers called me and they were like, oh, would you like to do one of the episodes on the last season of Warehouse 13? It's going to be about, like, your grandmother gets stuck in a soap opera and you got to go into the soap opera and save her. And everybody on our cast is going to speak Spanish. Do you want to do it? And I was like, of course. Oh, my God. I mean, I was so excited. I was like, that sounds amazing. And I just came out of a soap, yes. And then I was like, oh, but I'm pregnant. And they were like, oh, really? They were like, why? And I'm like,
Why?
No, they literally were like, but why? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that I'm pregnant, that I'm going to go give life in about a month. I really wanted to do your show too. Boo, hang up the phone, right? I'm thinking, oh. They call back and they're like, you know what? It's actually funnier that you're pregnant. Would you do it pregnant? I'm like, but my belly is like really big. I'm like 8.5 months. Like, I'm about to give birth in 2 weeks. And they're like, no, come to Toronto. We'll take care of you. Please do it. So they wrote me in pregnant. Like, who does that? I hear nightmares from different actresses that don't want to have kids because they think it might interfere with their careers, and it usually does. It usually does interfere. And with me, my pregnancy was like beloved, like it called work. And I was like, wow, had I known, I would have been pregnant every year. I would have had 10 kids.
Holy cow. That's right. I had to keep having kids. They were bringing me all this good luck. I couldn't stop.
So I did Warehouse 13 all the way up until, I was 8.5 months pregnant, had the baby. 2 months later, I did a comedy called Adult Beginners, and then after that, I was spent. I wanted to stay home with the baby, and I did. I did for almost 2 years, and then when I started back up in New York to audition, it just seemed to me that people thought I was still pregnant or something because they were not giving me gigs. And I was like, I can't have this. I'm not giving up on my career. I'm not, so it wasn't working for me from New York.
Yeah.
That's to be honest. And so my husband, who's my partner in crime, they were all cool. And the baby, he was cool to come to the West Coast and give it a go. And so since I've been here in February, I did Major Crimes, which is premiering October 31st. Yep. Which I'm really excited about. I have 5 episodes that follow a case, and it's amazing. You guys, if for anyone who is a fan of that show, they're really gonna love what they're doing this 6th season. And then Netflix is like showing me love, and now I'm recurring on a Netflix called that's called On My Block, and it's a half-hour show. It's comedy. It's the same people that produced and wrote Awkward, which I was a huge fan of, and I was like, oh my God, you think I'm funny? Cool. So I play like this mom from the hood, from East LA, who has 7-year-old twins and a 14-year-old boy, and she's making it happen. So it's kind of like the first time that I get to kind of play something that I've actually lived. I mean, minus the twins.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. It's never too late, though.
No,
it's never too late. There you go.
no.
Just imagine all the good luck to becoming your way with twins. Just doubling up on everything. Yes.
Imagine.
So now you mentioned back that you went to Comic-Con to go. You were actually there promoting Harold and Kumar, and then noticing everything else that was going on. Were you into comic books growing up, or is that something that you really didn't really kind of understand until you went and saw it firsthand at Comic-Con?
So back in like 2007, I was telling my husband, who's the co-creator of Aluna, our comic books, The World of Aluna, and I was basically complaining like, oh, I don't see a lot of Latinas in this show or in that movie or in the video games that you play or the comic books that, you read or whatever. And he's like, okay. And he was like, you know what? You're right. And we just started discussing about like the lack of really cool female superheroes. And then there was like no Latina superheroes or really that we knew of. And my husband is a comic book buff. Like he loves all comic books, all kinds, and he's a gamer. And then he was like, no, there might be like one thing here or one thing there, but it's not positive, and it's not like cool, and it's definitely not in mainstream. And I'm like, and he was like, you know what, we should do it. We should create one. And then, of course, I mean, you tell a Latina actress, we're going to do a superhero. I was like, and I want her to look like this. And I want her to do this. And I want her to kick ass like this. And he was like, all right. And so we started jotting down, like, our ideas of where she would be from and what she would do. And we did a lot of research of, we both were obsessed with like ancient aliens and history and things like that. And so I was like, wouldn't it be cool if she was like kind of like a cross between like Apocalypto the movie and like Pirates of the Caribbean? And then he was like, that's so cool. We could do something about like the 1500s and the New World, and let's mesh all the ancient tribes of South and Central and the Caribbean America and do like a hero that's like, she's the one that's gonna save all those people from the conquistadors, right? And I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so cool. And so we started doing research about different, because we're all pretty versed on Greek gods, and there's a lot of films and a lot of superheroes that are based on Greek mythology. And we thought, wouldn't it be awesome if we could start educating on the gods of South and Central America, because a lot of those ancient tribes had their own gods, like Pachamama, she's the goddess of earth. And so I was like, that sounds so cool. And so we started developing the story from there. I don't want to bore you too much with the details, but that's basically where how Aluna was born. And so Aluna was really born in 2008. And so we did our first comic book, scraping tooth and nail, rubbing two pennies together, really grabbing any artist that was interested in drawing anything for us. And my husband knew about Comic-Con. I didn't. And he was like, we should just go to Comic-Con. And I was like, sure, let's go. What is that? And in 2008, I was very lucky. I was doing The Shield. I was doing Knight Rider. I had just done the first Harold and Kumar. And there was a couple of other sci-fi things that I had been a part of. But I didn't know how that would come into play until I got to Comic-Con. Because when I first got to Comic-Con, it was a book signing session. And my fear, again, of stage fright came in full-fledged, and I was like, no one's going to show up. I'm going to be there with, like, I don't know, 500 copies of this first comic book, and I'm going to go back home with 500 copies of this comic book, and no one's going to care about a Latina superhero. Like, what the heck is that? I mean, I started totally second-guessing myself. And when I got there, it was the opposite. The fans were there. Whether they were there for The Shield or Knight Rider or Harold and Kumar, I didn't care. They were loving the fact that I had something new, that it was indie, that I was totally doing it independent and kind of like fighting for it. And they wanted to know more, and they wanted to know if I was developing her into other things. And it was really exciting. And because of that first appearance, we licensed her out to an online video game called Heroes of North.
So what's it like to see a character you just created, you and your husband kind of spitballing ideas back and forth, you kind of lay it down.
That's exactly what it was.
And then now all of a sudden it is in 2 dimensions on a computer game that anybody could play.
It was literally a dream come true. Kid in the candy store. It was that feeling all over again, like I'm a star. I made it. And not only that, it was like, wow, it's a story that started with a really late night conversation between you and I, and then we did a first comic book, and then people were like buying the comic book. Like, that's weird. Okay, oh, you want my signature? My God, that's so cool. I love you. And then this video game, and then they were so amazing as 2 games. They really wanted my husband's and mine input as far as like what her weapons would be, what she would wear. And then they were like, and you should voice her. And I'm like, okay.
If I have to. All right.
And it was amazing. It was a great experience. And we literally did it just to see if she could grow an audience of her own, to see her live and in color. We didn't have enough money to do it ourselves, so we were like, sure, we'll lend her to you guys. And I knew that people would love her, and I knew that it wasn't just going to be women. And my dreams really came true when the numbers started coming in. People were choosing her for play 90,000 times a day worldwide.
Man.
Okay, so it didn't matter that she was a woman. It didn't matter that she was a Latina superhero, because both men and women were choosing her for play out of 100 and something heroes that they could choose from. So it was a nice boost. It was a really, really big boost, and it's because of the fans that I've, because this train has been slow moving for almost 10 years.
But you get to see a lot of great views while you're doing that. You just got to really get a chance to take it all in.
Yes, absolutely. And, like my career, I guess it's mirroring my career. It has its ups, it has its downs, it has its, its speed bumps. And I'm just loving the ride. And you're right. I really appreciate, again, the fans, because the fans are the ones who motivate not only the sales and the obvious things, but motivate me to keep fighting. And then, of course, Wonder Woman happens, and it's like amazeballs for all women in entertainment, and I mean in all facets, whether you're a producer, writer, director, whatever. It just had a big impact as far as like, yeah, look what kick-ass women can do. We can, and we can also make some dollars.
Yeah.
We are making some dollars because we're spending it. And so, again, it was a great boost. And so that really motivated these next 3 new books for us, and especially this year's Comic-Con.
So when you first go down to Comic-Con, is it you and your husband having 2 different kind of thoughts going into it? Your husband's like, oh my gosh, we're getting to go to Comic-Con. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah,
and
he was totally geek, like gung-ho geek. I'm going to Comic-Con. Kind of like, we're going to go see this comic book and this video game. That, like, he was all about, like, fandom, right? And being a fan and going there. And me, I'm like, oh my God, my agents and everybody are going to think I'm a total failure and that I'm crazy. And, and so we both had different, you're right, we both had totally different ideas. But he was absolutely right about everything. He was right about Comic-Con. He was right about us going there with the book. He was right about people showing up. And this was, 2008. This was way before anything that you could gauge on Twitter or Instagram, or, I couldn't really gauge my following or who cared about anything that I do. I still can't, but that's another story. but he did. So it helps to have someone that you love, someone that's honest with you at all times, to give you a big boost and to have your back and say, no, don't worry about it. We got this. Aluna got this.
It's got to be great because as a Caucasian man, I mean, I'm just used to reading the majority of books that I read all starred Caucasian male heroes.
That's right.
To be somebody growing up, to be able to see somebody that looks like yourself,
yes,
and to show you that there are that you can do this too. That's got to be so rewarding, and be able to be in a position where you can give that to other people growing up. It's got to be very cool.
Well, that's a great point. The cartoon that I grew up watching that got me through a lot of rough and good times as a child was Scooby-Doo. But there was no Latina in Scooby-Doo. I identified with Scooby, period. And then, you know, there was Wonder Woman, and she did have dark hair, but she was very tall and she had blue eyes. But, you know, I imagined her as a Latina, you know. And so I think that was some of the first reminiscence of maybe one day there could be a Latina superhero. But you're right. Growing up, I didn't have a Latina superhero to look up to. Now, I hope that, you know, girls of any color and guys could see Aluna and be like, wow, that's cool. That's my hero. I like her.
So you were mentioning you and your husband interested in like ancient civilizations, ancient alien races and
Yes.
stuff. So I know there's always those episodes like on History Channel or
Yes.
Discovery where it's like, you know,
We're obsessed.
yes.
It's our porno. That, South Park, and a couple of Alone on History. We seem to watch History a lot. What does that say about us? But ancient aliens, we're like obsessed with that show. You know, it's a lot of like theorists and what do you call that? What's the word I'm looking for? Not fake news, but the
Tabloid?
no,
Or-
not tabloid, but conspiracies.
Oh, yeah, conspiracy theories.
You know, it's a lot of that. But I mean, we don't think the world is flat or anything like that.
Yeah.
But we have a cousin that does. But that's another story.
Because I've watched some of those shows, and there's part of it's like, it would be great for them to be able to prove it. And I always feel like I get frustrated because it's always like, we just missing this one key piece. This could change everything. And then you never get it. And you're like, come on. Again, I watched the whole hour, and you fail right with the most important thing that you could get, and you don't get it.
Last night there was an episode, and there was one. It really grabbed me like right from the beginning, because it was like Mexico found these like sculptures of astronauts and gold airplanes, or what looks like they're jets, and the Mexican government is actually keeping it a secret, but they did this whole press release on how they have these things and they can prove that the ancient civilizations of the Mayas and Incas were visited by aliens. And I was like, I gotta watch it. I'm hooked.
And were they able to get the key evidence that was going to prove this?
Well, there was an actual press release by the Mexican government, so I don't know. I don't know. You know what? I believe anything is possible.
You know,
I mean, Trump is our president.
true.
Anything is possible.
And it's more fun to think that these things can happen. Why,
Yes.
why always be like the doubting Thomas?
Yeah, and you know what? And I think it's just the creative part of me as well. It's like, if you're creative, you should always be asking, well, what if? And what if? And what if? You know, and it's the whole reason why we like Batman and why we like Superman and why we like Spider-Man, and, you know, and the list goes on and on and on. And so I hope Aluna can, you know, we ask a big what if. We ask, what if all the ancient tribes of South and North America had one savior and they really kicked ass against the conquistadors? Our history would be completely different. It'd be completely altered. So we ask that over and over in our 8-book series, comic book series. So it's a major theme in the series.
So for you, what itch does this scratch that acting by itself doesn't quite do for you?
It's being able to produce your own material, create your own material. Yeah, it's not only my dream would be, my ultimate goal for Aluna, if you're asking me what my ultimate goal for Aluna is.
I'm not. We're going to move on. No.
It would be a TV show. Where I could explore, you know, different storylines and different things. And I would love to be able to not only give myself a platform to shine as Aluna, but also give other artists that I find amazing a platform to shine. Not only, other actors or actresses, but also writers and directors and producers. I mean, there's a lot of female directors that still are not getting play, and that I've personally worked with for television, and they're like unemployed most of the time. And I would love to have like a rotating a table of female directors that would be amazing, that could kick some butt on Aluna, the TV show. But in all, really, it's to give. Producing really gives me an opportunity, again, not only to give myself a platform to shine, but also other artists that I admire.
Now, you mentioned one of Aluna's abilities is to be able to go backwards and forwards through time. I am a huge sucker for time travel. I love time travel stories. Now, is it more just ancient aliens, or is time travel like really like something that you're into as well?
I love time travel as well. I really do. And when we were doing research for Aluna, one of the ancient tribes that we found that actually do exist and weren't discovered until like 1974, they believe that they can consult a bowl of water, and that they could be in the present, the past, and the future at the same time. And this state is called being in the state of Aluna, hence the name.
Nice.
So when we started researching that, we were like, oh my God, this is it. That's the name. That's her powers. Imagine what you would be able to do if you would be able to be in your present, be able to go back to your past and fix some things, but knowing how exactly it would affect your future, and so that you could alter it somehow. I mean, yeah, it would get all very confusing, but it would be, I think, amazing. It would be a total new way of looking at time and looking at what our reality is or would be. So yeah, time travel is one of my favorite themes as far as sci-fi.
That's going to be one of the best moments, though, when the idea finally everything clicks in, and you're like, aha, that is what the idea is, and that's what we're looking for. That's the fun part of creation. When you're just like, yes, everything's firing on all cylinders.
I don't know what it is, but there's a certain, like, it just clicks and everything starts making sense to you, and you go, oh my, there it is. We don't even have to write it. It's real. It's true. Mind you, these people are chewing a lot of coca leaves, and they live in high altitudes. Maybe that has a little bit to do with it. But I like to think that they know better than we do, because really their main mission, like a lot of ancient tribes and ancient civilizations of, North and South America and really all over the world, is to take care of Earth. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds corny and very environmentalist, but it's the truth, And so a lot of her powers stem from that as well. She uses a lot of Earth's powers. She is the daughter of a goddess, Pachamama, and a conquistador. So she has both human DNA and goddess DNA, but she's conflicted because she was raised as royalty in Spain. But through a certain set of circumstances, she has to come back to the new world and face who she truly is, her destiny. And she's the leader of all ancient tribes, and she's the Aluna.
But I like what you said, though, is that just because these people are kind of embracing maybe a simpler way of life doesn't make it less than, or like just because we're way more technology available to us does not mean that we get it better than they do, or that we're smarter, or we're at more of an advantage.
No, I mean, you're definitely absolutely right. We have more technology, but what are we doing with it? Are we doing good? I don't know. We're not really doing that much good. And their simple way of life is feeding Earth and making sure Earth is healthy and everyone around them. And they want to give this information to the world. So, yeah, again, it sounds like my dad, very hippie and very, tree hugging. But it's the truth. And we're facing environmental issues, whether we believe them or not, right now on our daily basis. So I think Aluna hits hits a lot of different topics that are very relevant right now. So it's, you know, it's got the whole women superhero theme that people seem to enjoy now. I'm glad.
Yes.
It's got a Latino thing going. I think we're in style. Or at least, I don't know. I'm trying to make a thing out of it. Hashtag Latinos are in style. I don't know. The environmental thing, you know, rise up against the powers that be. Doesn't have to be white people. It just has to be the powers that be, you know?
Just play your red bone. Play your red bone. Stay woke, everybody. Stay woke.
I don't know. And it's, again, it's the story. I really must say, the writers of our 8-book series, which I have the first 3 books here with us today, they are seasoned writers. They know how to write video games and comic books. They're the writers for Assassin's Creed, the video game, Batman Arkans, Prince of Persia, and many other games. Ryan Galleta, Duma Wenshaw, Corey May, David T. Cabrera, and Tunyon Benso. And they really are an amazing team, and I want to say thank you to them because of them, our comic books look the way they do. And they took into consideration everything that I had to say about the sensibility of the character, how I wanted her to be, what her story was, you know, because we had a first comic book. So my husband and I had that first comic book, but they really fleshed it out and made sure that people can take their time with her origin and could really get to know her and love her and then take that full ride when she does rise up as a superhero.
Because I feel like that's one thing. It's great to be able to create something for yourself, you and your husband or anybody that's creating something. But I also think it's even, in some ways even better when you see that idea resonating in others. Like something you've created sparks something in others that they are drawn to what you've created.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought Aluna was cool, but then again, you know, I might be a little biased. She's my baby. But then to have people who have worked on, you know, like billion-dollar games like Assassin's Creed think that they were like, Latina superhero? What? We're all over that. We love it, you know. And they came in like excited and actually wanted to hear what I had to say. It really goes back to, again, like, not only does the world underestimate women and women in entertainment and women in gaming, comic books or whatever, but I was underestimating myself, you know, as a product of that. And so it was a nice change, a nice boost that someone actually that has done it before and that is proven to be successful in that world, in the gaming and comic book world, to come and tell you, your idea is great. And it might not make money now, but it will one day. And no, but you're going to grow an audience and people are going to love the idea that you have. And yes, that's great. It was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. You know, so it made me realize that I was also underestimating myself. But I think now is the time for not just women, especially for Latina women and not really women as a whole, to really give what they got for entertainment, for comic books, for video games, for any multimedia job. Really, I think we're here to stay, and I think we're in it, you know.
Well, for somebody that's gone through your journey, your life, your struggles, your highs and your lows, to think that you weren't counting on yourself, that's come on, you should be able. You've done incredible things.
Well, thank you so much. But yeah, you know, I'm a human being. It's you know, the highs are high and then the lows are low, and then you think, oh well, maybe I'm not so great. And as an artist, and especially as an actor, I find it's a recurring theme. I mean, I've met a couple of really cool actors, and we've talked about this, where it's a running theme where you feel like, oh, I was so lucky to get that gig. Like you feel like you're pulling the wool over people's eyes. Like maybe you're not as good as you think you are, or maybe you're not talented. And sometimes that creeps again into my head. But then I audition and I get that high, and then if I get the job, it's amazing, and then I create something, I write something when I'm a little frustrated or not busy enough, and then someone likes it and actually license the character and pays you a few bucks for your character to be on a video game, and you're like, what? Like, okay, great. But I think it's a running theme with artists. I don't think artists ever feel like they're the shit.
I do, guys. I do. So, now, it's one thing for you and your husband to create this comic book, but what do your kids think? It's, they're like, hey, Mom and Dad, they made a comic book.
So my daughter thinks it's amazing. It's right up her alley. She thinks it's the coolest thing. We actually get a lot of input from her because she's very social media savvy. She's, the 18 to 20 something audience, so that's the target right there, and she's definitely what Comic-Con tries to sell to. So I'm always asking her opinion, and her opinion is pretty much spot on. My son is 3.5 years old.
So he's totally reading this, comprehending everything.
He likes the way Aluna looks.
Yes. That right there, you take that and then you run with that. Yes.
He actually loves the way Aluna looks. I haven't really read any of the stories because I feel like it could get a little bloody at times. But I make up my own Aluna version for him. So I don't know, and the versions that I do make up, like the preschool versions for him, he loves. So that's, I don't know, maybe that's something we're working on.
There you go.
Preschool Aluna.
Yes, an all ages version. Why not? Absolutely. So for you, going back on this past year or this year, what was like from the first time we're like, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into, to now going back here, kind of, you've got 3 issues under your belt going into the Comic-Con experience this time.
So the same jitters.
Same
the
jitters?
Same jitters, because it's been a while since I had been to Comic-Con. I didn't have like the Knight Riders or the Shield or the Harold and Kumars like so fresh. Like, yeah, I'm like, I thought, okay, well, they're going to be like, oh, that's the girl that used to be on the Shield, on that show, The Shield, or that's the girl that she's Maria from Harold and Kumar, or that's the girl that was on Knight Rider or whatever, or, Law and Orders or whatever. And I just didn't think anybody was really going to care and come. Or whatever. Wrong. Aluna has her own audience. She has her own numbers as far as the video game, and every time I go there with anything Aluna, anytime I announce anything Aluna on my Instagram or social medias, Twitters, Facebook, whatever, people are right there with her. So any insecurities that I have is totally wrong. It's my own personal issues that I gotta go see a psychologist about. Other than that, Aluna, it's just a great boost for me anyway, because the fans are there with her. So it was a great experience again this past Comic-Con. And not only did I get like fans that are, just a regular Joe Schmo from the street, I got Michael Uslan, who's like that boy.
Yes.
Stopped by my booth and was like, I love Aluna, and can I have 3 copies, and made me sign some copy. And I was just like, it's Bat Boy. Like, he's why Batman is what he is now. And Lego movie, hello, Batman Lego. Like, he's amazing. And then other actors, I had, Eddie McClintock from Warehouse 13 stopped by, and he was like, what's up? I heard you're the Latino superhero. I gotta get me some copies. And so it was really nice to get also some famous faces, some people who are like legit street cred comic book buffs stop by, like Michael Uslan. So I was really, really happy about the turnout this last time at Comic-Con.
It
was really great.
I think that's just for you or any creator. What I think is just so great is that you make this thing for yourself, and you never know. You put it out there, and you never understand just quite the widespread reach that it has.
Yeah.
Until an event like that, where you get to actually interact with the people that this has actually reached out and touched, and you get to see them right to your face, and they get to say, my gosh, I love this stuff.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Aluna is that I get her audience is it's such a wide net. It's such a wide range. I get 7, 8, 9, 10 teenage girls, right? And then I'll get like 40s, 50s, 60s male, and then I'll get like my Asian people from like Harold and Kumar, but then I'll get all the Latinos, and then I'll get all the white boys, and then it's like just, I mean, like Aluna really is the rainbow coalition of whatever you would think an audience should be. It all goes out the window. So I'm really, really excited about that as well, because it reaches a lot of ages, a lot of ethnicities, and you know, her story, that I don't know, it's resonating with them and they're liking it. So I'm very appreciative of that.
So now you said this is going to be an 8-part series.
Yes.
Is this the beginning, middle, and end of a Luna story, or this is just an 8-part story for the 8-issue series for this particular story, and you have many more Luna stories?
So this is 8-part series for the origins and how she finds out who she is, and a couple of battles of her, you know, being the superhero that she is. But we have many, many stories to come. We have also spin-offs for the other characters. Like, we really have created a whole world. Like, that's why it's called the world of Aluna, because it really is a whole world in itself. And our TV show idea actually is set in the present. So the TV show would be, she's a girl from Spanish Harlem living in the now, and then she has dreams and flashbacks of what is happening in the comic book.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like a Highlander, but backwards.
Gotcha.
And then...
Does she meet Martin Scorsese yet? Does he show up?
I would love for him to show up and direct a couple of episodes. Why not, Martin? Hello. Yeah, and so we have a lot of ideas. So the reason why we're so excited about these books and why we're making sure they're beautiful and really fleshed out is because it's really going to be our Bible for her history in the TV show as well. So it'll just have double duty.
Look at that. Oh, man. Ladies and gentlemen, we could talk more about this. We haven't even got into like all
I
the
can
cool...
go on forever.
No, this is great. That's what, which, as a creator, that's what you need to be able to do. You've got many stories to share about Aluna. We're going to be able to get a chance to hear about all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest has been Paula Garces. You can catch her if they want to keep up to date with you in terms of acting, Aluna. Where's the place to find you on social media?
theworldofaluna.com, paulagarces.com. My Twitter is Paula Garces1. My Instagram is the real Paula Garces, because the girl that got Paula Garces is living a fabulous life that I'm not living. And Facebook is the official Paula Garces on Facebook.com.
Oh, so the real and the official. Look at that.
Yeah,
I like
again, there's other Paula Garces out there living a fabulous life.
Except
I want
no
to meet you one day.
Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you're looking out for her book, Aluna. You can check those out. Again, we've got on October 30th.
Yes.
TNT, Major
October
Crimes.
31st. Sorry, 31st.
On Halloween night. Look at that.
Halloween!
Celebrate Halloween night by watching the season premiere of season 6 of Major Crimes on TNT. Also, look out in 2018 for Netflix on My Block as well. Their very own created a sitcom for them. And ladies and gentlemen, you can join me or join me just watching those and reading those at home. I'll be doing that. That's what I'll be doing, Paula.
Right.
I will just be watching you do these things. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll see you back here next time with another episode of AfterBuzz TV. Play it on.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.